All right, folks, let's talk tariffs. Tariffs might sound like a dry topic, but they have a huge impact on our daily lives and the global economy. Imagine you're at a bake sale, right? It's bustling with activity, and the aroma of freshly baked goods fills the air. You've got your eye on that delicious chocolate chip cookie. It's the one you've been craving all day. But then, out of nowhere, the cookie seller slaps on an extra charge, just because you're from a different neighborhood. You feel a bit annoyed, right? That, my friends, is a tariff. A tax on goods coming from another country. It's like that extra charge on your cookie, but on a much larger scale. Now, governments use tariffs for a bunch of reasons. They might want to protect their local industries from foreign competition. Sometimes it's to protect their own industries, like saying, buy American cookies. This encourages people to buy locally made products. Other times, it's to try and get a better deal in a trade negotiation. Countries might use tariffs as a bargaining chip to get more favorable terms. Think of it like a game of chicken, but with economies instead of cars. Each side is waiting to see who will back down first. But here's the thing about tariffs. They have consequences. They can lead to higher prices for consumers and strained relationships between countries. Just like that extra charge on your cookie might make you think twice about buying it, tariffs can make imported goods more expensive, hurting both businesses and consumers. This can lead to inflation and reduced purchasing power. And that, my friends, is where the trouble begins. Businesses might struggle to stay afloat, and consumers might find it harder to afford everyday items. So, while tariffs can be a tool for governments, they come with a set of challenges that affect us all. Now, in recent years, we've seen a whole lot of tariff talk, especially coming from the good old US of A. The idea was to protect American jobs and industries, particularly in manufacturing. So tariffs were slapped on things like steel and aluminum, mostly coming from China. The Trump administration argued that these tariffs were necessary to level the playing field and bring back manufacturing jobs to America. They said it was time to put America first, and tariffs were their weapon of choice. But like that pebble you toss in a pond, tariffs have a way of creating ripples that spread far and wide. The tariffs imposed by the US didn't just affect China, they sent shockwaves through the global economy. Businesses in the US felt the pinch as the cost of imported materials went up, cutting into their profits. And guess what? Those higher costs often got passed along to consumers, who saw prices rise on everything from cars to washing machines. And China? Well, they didn't just sit back and take it. They retaliated with their own tariffs on American goods like soybeans and pork, hurting American farmers who rely on those exports. It turned into a tit-for-tat trade war with no clear winner. Now, while the US was busy playing tariff hardball, China was making moves of its own, particularly in Africa. They rolled out the red carpet, offering zero tariff access to their massive market for a bunch of African countries. On the surface, this sounds like a pretty sweet deal for Africa, right? Duty-free access to the world's second-largest economy? Sign me up, but hold your horses, folks, because things ain't always what they seem. China's zero-tariff offer is undoubtedly strategic. They're looking to expand their influence in Africa, secure access to resources, and position themselves as the partner of choice for developing nations. It's a charm offensive with a side of economic muscle. Now, while China's offer might sound tempting, analysts are quick to point out the challenges African nations face in actually benefiting from it. See, many African economies are still grappling with deep-seated structural issues. We're talking about things like lack of infrastructure, limited access to financing, and bureaucratic hurdles that can make it tough for businesses to operate and grow. These are the kinds of challenges that can hold back even the most well-intentioned trade deals. On top of that, there are concerns that flooding the market with cheap Chinese goods could stifle the growth of local industries in Africa. It's a delicate balancing act, trying to boost trade without undermining local production. Section 6. AGOA versus Zero Tariff, a tale of two offers. Now let's compare China's zero tariff offer with something called AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act. This comparison is crucial because it highlights the different approaches taken by two of the world's largest economies in their engagement with Africa. China's zero tariff offer is straightforward. It allows certain goods from African countries to enter the Chinese market without any tariffs. This can be incredibly appealing for African exporters looking to expand their market reach. On the other hand, AGOA is a U.S. initiative that provides duty-free access to the American market for certain goods from eligible African countries. This program has been in place since 2000 and aims to boost economic growth and development in Africa by providing access to the lucrative American market. However, the eligibility criteria for AGOA are quite stringent. On paper, AGOA seems like a pretty good deal too. It has helped many African countries increase their exports to the U.S., creating jobs and stimulating economic growth. But the reality is more complex, but it's got its own set of strings attached. The U.S. government reviews each country's eligibility annually, and countries must meet specific criteria related to human rights, labor standards, and good governance. This means that a country can lose its AGOA benefits if it fails to meet these standards. Eligibility for AGOA is often linked to things like human rights records and democratic governance, which some African nations have struggled to meet. This can create uncertainty for businesses that rely on AGOA benefits, as they may lose access to the U.S. market if their country falls out of compliance. So, you've got China's zero-tariff offer, which raises concerns about economic dependence and potential damage to local industries. Critics argue that flooding African markets with cheap Chinese goods can undermine local businesses and lead to job losses. And then you've got AGOA, which comes with conditions that can be difficult for some African nations to fulfill. The stringent requirements can be a double-edged sword, promoting good governance and human rights, but also excluding countries that need economic support the most. It's a tough spot to be in, no doubt about it. African nations must navigate these complex trade relationships, balancing the immediate benefits of market access with the long-term implications for their economies and sovereignty. The choice between AGOA and China's zero-tariff offer is not just about trade. It's about the future direction of their development and their place in the global economy. Section 7. Beyond tariffs, tackling Africa's trade barriers. Now here's the thing, folks. While tariffs grab the headlines, they're only part of the story when it comes to trade in Africa. There are a whole bunch of other barriers that need to be addressed if African nations are going to truly benefit from global trade. We're talking about things like improving infrastructure, streamlining customs procedures, and reducing corruption. These are the kinds of behind-the-scenes reforms that can make a real difference in facilitating trade and attracting investment. And then there's the issue of diversification. African nations need to move away from relying too heavily on exporting raw materials and focus on adding value to their products. That means investing in processing, manufacturing, and building up local industries. Section 8. Fighting back strategies for African nations. So what can African nations do to navigate this complex world of tariffs and trade? Well, for starters, they need to get strategic. That means playing the field, leveraging their relationships with different countries, and negotiating the best possible deals for themselves. Diversifying trade partners is key. Relying too heavily on one market, whether it's China, the US, or any other country, can make African nations vulnerable to economic shocks and political pressure. Spreading the risk is essential, and then there's the power of collaboration. By working together, African nations can strengthen their negotiating position, share knowledge and resources, and build more resilient economies. There's strength in numbers, folks. Section 9. The time to act is now, supporting local economies and staying informed. Look, the bottom line is this. Trade is a powerful tool for economic growth, but it's not a magic bullet. It can open doors to new markets, create jobs, and foster innovation, but it must be managed wisely and inclusively. African nations face real challenges, but they also have enormous potential. The continent is rich in resources, both natural and human, and has a young, dynamic population eager to drive change. By addressing those challenges head-on, they can create a brighter future for their people. This means investing in education, infrastructure, and technology, and ensuring that growth is inclusive and sustainable. So what can you do? Well, for starters, stay informed. Knowledge is power, and understanding the complexities of global trade can help you make more informed decisions. Pay attention to what's happening in the world of trade and how it affects Africa. Follow news sources, read articles, and engage in discussions about trade policies and their impacts. Support businesses that are working to empower local communities and promote sustainable development. Look for companies that prioritize fair trade, ethical sourcing, and community investment. By choosing to support these businesses, you can help create a ripple effect that benefits entire communities. Your purchasing decisions can drive demand for more equitable and sustainable practices. And most importantly, remember that the future of Africa is ultimately in the hands of Africans. They are the ones who will shape their destiny, but they need support and solidarity from the global community. By supporting their efforts to build a more prosperous and equitable continent, we can all play a part in creating a better world for everyone. Together, we can help unlock Africa's potential and ensure a brighter future for generations to come. If you found this video insightful, please subscribe, like, and share it with your network. For more information, visit our website. Let's stay connected and informed.